Today, we're counting down the 10 deadliest jobs in medieval Europe, professions so hazardous that their annual death rates rivaled those of war zones. From filthy urban trades that invited disease to high-paying roles where survival was a rare achievement, every entry exposes the grim reality workers faced just to earn a living. But which job guaranteed the shortest, most brutal existence? Let's begin our countdown with number 10. In plague-ridden cities, the rat catcher was both essential and doomed. These workers hunted rodents in the filth of alleys and sewers, often handling dozens of plague-infested rats every day. Records from 1665 in London estimate that nearly 8 out of every 10 rat catchers died within just 2 years on the job. In 1348, Paris, 31 of 40 hired rat catchers were dead in 18 months. The pay was high, but the cost was almost always fatal exposure to fleas carrying Yersinia pestis. Today, pest control workers face a death rate of just 0.001%, an unimaginable luxury in medieval times. Boys as young as 4 were sent crawling up soot-choked chimneys, their small bodies forced through flues barely wider than their shoulders. In 1788, London parish records counted 47 child chimney sweep deaths in just 1 year. Many suffocated, trapped in the darkness, while others suffered slow, agonizing burns when masters lit fires beneath them to force them upward. Even those who survived childhood rarely reached old age. The 1842 Children's Employment Commission found the average sweep died at just 22, often from cancers caused by years of soot pressed into their skin. England did not ban this deadly trade until 1875. After midnight, Gong farmers climbed down into the city's cesspits, armed with shovels and buckets. Each breath risked sudden blackout as invisible clouds of methane and hydrogen sulfide filled the air. If a worker lost consciousness, drowning in human waste followed within minutes. In 1326, London's coroner recorded the death of Richard the Raker, found lifeless in a privy pit. Surviving meant constant infections and a stench that forced them into exile outside the city walls. Despite earning up to 4 times a labourer's wage, records from 1281 show nearly half died within a year. For these men, the price of sanitation was exile and a short, brutal life. Tanners spent their days up to their knees in vats of caustic lime, urine, and animal brains, transforming raw hides into leather. Every scrape and soak exposed open cuts to anthrax spores, while the air filled with fumes from mercury, arsenic, and lead. Guild rolls from 1580 show tanners died an average of 15 years, younger than other craftsmen. Hands and arms were marked by sores that never healed, and the slow poisoning left many with failing lungs, missing teeth, and hair falling out by 30. City ordinances forced tanners to work outside the walls, their trade too toxic and foul for crowded streets. Chronic exposure did not kill in a single night, but the toll was relentless, systematic poisoning that shortened lives and left whole families marked by the trade. Saltpetre men scraped nitre from the walls of stables and cesspits, gathering the raw ingredient for gunpowder that kept England's armies supplied. The job meant daily contact with piles of rotting waste and clouds of ammonia, strong enough to burn the lungs. Inhaling these fumes left men coughing blood, their breath forever short. Skin infections from open wounds often turned septic, and diseases like typhoid and dysentery spread unchecked among the crew. Surviving records from the Tower of London in 1561 suggest that 6 out of every 10 saltpetre men died within 5 years of starting the work. No protective gear existed, and rags tied over the mouth offered little defense. Shunned by neighbors for their stench and barred from churches, these men paid for national defense with their health and their social lives. Stonebreakers spent their days in the open air, hammering rock from dawn until dusk. Each swing of the chisel sent clouds of fine dust, swirling, crystalline silica so small it slipped deep into the lungs. The damage did not show right away. Scar tissue built up year after year until breathing felt like dragging air through concrete. In 1842, a royal commission found that half of all quarry workers died before reaching 35. Sudden death was never far off. Falling rocks crushed about 1 in 5 stone breakers, sometimes without warning. Tuberculosis stalked the quarries too, striking at 8 times the rate of the general population. Children as young as 6 joined the crews, their lives often measured in a handful of brutal years. For many, the only escape from the dust was a shallow grave at the edge of the pit. Below deck, the ship's barber surgeon faced a brutal reality. With no medical training, these men performed amputations with carpenter's saws while the ship pitched and rolled. The odds were stacked against both patient and surgeon. 3 out of 4 men died after losing a limb, and the surgeon was just as likely to fall victim to infection as those he tried to save. Royal Navy muster rolls from 1692 show the average ship's surgeon survived only to age 28. Dirty tools carried blood and pus from one patient to the next, fueling outbreaks of hospital gangrene. Yellow fever, malaria, and scurvy swept through cramped quarters, claiming surgeons at higher rates than sailors. When operations failed, angry crews sometimes threw the surgeon overboard, blaming him for the mounting dead. For these men, every day at sea was a gamble with disease, violence, and the limits of human endurance. In the glittering halls of royal courts, the food taster lived on borrowed time. Every meal carried the threat of hidden poison, arsenic, nightshade, or worse, slipped into a dish meant for the king. Payment rolls from Milan in 1478 show 3 court tasters dead from poisoning within just 6 months. The job paid high wages and offered a place by the ruler's side, but the price was often a slow, agonizing death. Some poisons triggered seizures and organ failure that dragged on for days or even weeks. In the Vatican, Pope Alexander VI employed 6 tasters, and 4 died during his reign. Trusted servants could be accused of conspiracy and executed outright if suspicion fell on them, even when no poison was found. For many, the position lasted only 2 or 3 years before death or disgrace. In some families, the role passed from parent to child, binding generations to a job where survival depended on luck and the whims of palace intrigue. Carrying out the law's sentence did not protect executioners from violence, it made them targets. In 1534, Nuremberg city records counted 7 out of 10 executioners murdered, many killed by the families of people they had put to death. The job meant living on the edge of society, barred from taverns, churches, and even public gatherings. Touching the dead rendered them religiously unclean, and city edicts forced them to live outside the walls, separated from neighbors who feared contamination. Revenge killings were a constant threat. Executioners often looked over their shoulders, knowing that a single act could spark a vendetta that lasted years. The stigma was hereditary. Children inherited not only the tools of the trade, but also the pariah status and the risk of violent retribution. Some executioners took their own lives, unable to bear the isolation and the weight of their work. Their profession was a grim paradox. They were servants of justice, yet forever hunted and outcast, paying for their role with shortened lives and generational exile. From the moment they could hold a bow, boys in medieval England began the relentless training that would shape their bodies and their fate. By age 7, their bones were already twisting under the strain. Archaeologists still find the thickened arms and shoulders of these child archers in mass graves. On the battlefield, longbowmen stood at the very front, absorbing the first wave of arrows and cavalry charges. At Cressy in 1346, English archers formed the backbone of the army, yet contemporary estimates suggest that nearly 2 out of every 5 never left the field alive. Agincourt in 1415 brought another grim tally, with longbowmen suffering heavy casualties despite victory. At Flodden in 1513, Scottish archers faced slaughter so severe that only a fraction returned home, their ranks decimated in a single afternoon. Surviving battle was only half the struggle. Disease swept through camps, claiming as many lives as the enemy. Most longbowmen fought in just a handful of major battles before dying young, many between 25 and 35. For these men, The combination of violence, disease, and lifelong physical toll meant that picking up the bow was a decision that almost always led to an early grave. Across all these deadly trades, one pattern stands out. Survival was a luxury, and work itself was a gamble with death. Medieval jobs weren't just livelihoods, they were life sentences. Today's workplace safety is hard-won, and the human cost behind it is a history we can't afford to forget.